ways of how we're going to go about it. The first one is a panel discussion where we have our esteemed panelists here today to share their insights and experience on the contact center journey that they went through with AI and how that is transforming. So we'll hear from them. The second session is a joint presentation that will be taken up by Google and Quantify, where we will be sharing our experience on how are we transforming contact center experience for our customers using conversational AI as well as generative AI. What are the strategies that we're applying? What are the different kinds of implementation frameworks that we use? And then the third session is going to be an interactive workshop that we'll conduct here today, sharing our framework of how do we measure success of how this revolutionization is going to impact our contact center journey. So we also have, most of you all are going to see some of these workshop templates that we have on the table. I'd also request some of you all to come up front if possible, because we have most of these here on the front tables. So we will be sharing that. It will be more of an interactive session, and then towards the end there will be a quiz. And hang tight for this, because this one is going to be a quick one. We also have a gift for whoever wins. It's the AirPod Pro. So looking forward to having that, and we request you all to keep this engaging and ask us questions also when the time comes. And looking forward to getting started. Before we get started, I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Quantiphy. I lead our go-to-market efforts for the generative AI practice here at Quantify, and I'm also going to now let our panelists introduce themselves.
Thanks, Pram. My name is Ishan. I lead our conversational AI practice at Quantify. Super excited to be here and share our thoughts and how we can help you guys.
Hi, I'm Megan. I work at KeyBank. I run data and analytics as well as operational reporting for the contact center.
Good afternoon, everybody. David Keeley, Chief Technology Officer at Electronic Caregiver. Super excited to chat with you all today, and very grateful for the opportunity and partnership we have with all of you.
And last but not least, my name is Matt Clare. I'm the product management lead at Google for our contact center AI suite of products. And some of you who've been doing this for a while may have seen me at past events. This is my 6th time speaking and 14th year at this event, so I grew up here. Happy to be back.
Nice. Thank you so much, panelists. And one thing that I also want to share is, I think it's a very good mix. We have our customers who are going to talk about how they're implementing it, and we have our experts that are going to talk about how are we helping them implement it with the help of Google's technology. So very excited to get this started. So to kick it off, our first question is going to be around how are contact centers using AI? There's a lot that has been going on in the space for a while. Mostly we're seeing, especially in the past decade or so, a lot has changed in how contact center, which is more of a human-intensive setup, is now changing into being more revolutionized and is using AI. So I want to start with Kimberly to hear her thoughts and experience on how has this transformed in the past few years, and especially how are we doing it at Key?
Yeah, great. So Key over the last 3 years has been on a strategic journey where we are modernizing and migrating to the cloud within the contact center. So with that journey, we're really trying to update our infrastructure to prepare for this next leg, which all around AI, generative AI, etc. Our CEO, Chris Gorman, phrased this perfectly, I think. We are trying to simplify the hardest job at Key through a variety of different things, through an easier application and interface, whether you're answering your phone or you're chatting, through a more simplified servicing experience with our back-end servicing applications, and also really to help our clients get the service that they need in the channel of their choice. And so over the last 2 years, we've been working really hard to launch a conversational AI chatbot in our digital space. And the whole goal of that is to really, help steer our clients, keep them in the channel of their choice, shift the cost to serve, get clients in a lower cost to serve model so that we're not, always sending them to the phone, which is our highest kind of volume to serve. And we also really want to understand what is the non-human worthy tasks that we can take off of their plates so that we can then upscale our talent in the contact center so that they can handle the more complex. And when we think about that, we really think about those repeatable banking transactions, right? Everybody checks their deposits, everybody checks their transactions. You know, people need help setting up Zelle, sending money through Zelle, card management, adding different information to your account. Those are not human-worthy tasks. And so we've realized a lot through our data strategy and our product development that we have an opportunity to really transform the way we interact with our clients in the digital channel when they're not able to self-service themselves with a chatbot. And so over the last year, we've had, I believe, 7% reduction in call volume just from conversational AI, keeping them in the digital space from a consumer perspective. We have about 2,200 chats a day with our conversational AI bot, which is called Quantiphy, clever enough. And we've now just recently launched into the business area. So on the commercial side, we launched, I believe, in March of 2024. We've seen a reduction of 13% call volumes from that. And we also have about 220 chats per day with Quantiphy in our digital space. So we've started the journey, we're on the journey. Looking forward, what we want to do is really enhance that journey with generative AI. And so as we think about our client interactions with our teammates, whether they're in the branch, whether they're in the contact center, we know that answering a question, when that question comes in with the right information, is super important. And so today, our agents, our branch teammates have a variety of different sources to be able to go out there and say, you know, what's the answer to this question? We have a whole site that's called Hero. They have, you know, hundreds of different articles to read through for processes, procedures, and our goal is to use generative AI to synthesize that information so that our clients and our employees are getting the right information at the right time without having to click through, you know, hundreds of different procedures or, you know, even worse, using tribal knowledge, if you will, right? So the person next to me has done one thing a certain way 100 different times. I'm now training, I've learned that from them. It's not a great experience for the employee, it's not a great experience for the client, and it also introduces some risks to the organization. So our future with generative AI is to really simplify that experience. And I'll talk more about it, how we're looking at it in the data perspective as well in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I like how you're trying to strike a balance with like elevating customer experience, but also ensuring that you're empowering your agents and, you know, doing both. David, I'd like to hear a little more from you around how are we doing this in electronic caregiver, given that, you know, we've also just started doing most of these things recently. So how's that switch been so far?
Yeah, I'd love to speak to that. And Ken, it's interesting because the way that you all are approaching it is very similar to the way that we approached it. And as the CTO of Electronic Caregiver, getting out and becoming involved in contact center intelligence and delivery of digital healthcare, telehealth services through contact center has presented a lot of unique challenges, and it's introduced me to a lot of different groups and organizations. What I've seen over the last couple of years is really the development of two camps when it comes to implementation of AI across the contact center. Those two camps are Camp 1, organizations that are trying to deliver an application as quickly as possible to market so they're able to say they're staying current with the trends and they've delivered AI. We haven't seen a lot of success. I haven't seen a lot of success out of those organizations that fall into Camp 1. Like I was saying with you all, Camp 2 is really a very strategic, targeted, and well thought out plan of attack and approach to delivering usable and consumable generative AI across the contact center. What we've done is we've engaged, at Electronic Caregiver, is we've engaged the totality of our stakeholders in our contact center. Beginning discussions around artificial intelligence, we heard a very common theme, and that theme was concern, and in some instances fear, of the quality of the AI output. So we kind of flipped back on its head and worked directly with our stakeholders to focus on virtualizing the quality process and quality assurance process of our phone calls. Taking our coverage, our QA coverage rate from 10% to 100% of our calls. And over the last year, we've scaled to 300,000 reimbursable Medicare services delivered through our contact center. Being able to take a workforce of human and digital employees and combine them in a way that gives us a 10x coverage on our call QA has provided incredible insights and done nothing but build trust with our stakeholders, making them more confident in the technologies that we're delivering. So again, for me, I'm seeing two distinct camps. I feel like we're hearing the second camp has been very successful in certain areas. And while we're on the beginning of our journey, I think we've been able to deliver on customer needs because we've been targeted with our AI strategy. And that's what I would suggest to every organization.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing the categorization. Matthew, I would like to hear from you. Google Cloud has a separate technology altogether dedicated for contact center transformation called Google Contact Center AI. So how is Google helping organizations in this journey?
Great question. So for those of you that have been following, Google initially launched Contact Center AI back in about 2018. Initially very focused on leveraging our natural language processing models and really building what we now refer to as deterministic AI flows. So the ability to understand a human intent and then respond using AI based on whatever that intent is. That, of course, led to a variety of customers deploying rather large, complex, kind of IVR chatbot replacements using our CCAI technology. And that's kind of where the journey started. We've always had a very ethical approach to AI, so we want to make sure that we're not just focusing on cost reduction and replacing humans with bots. So we've very focused on what we call throughput when it comes to AI strategy, which is really making sure that you're actually using AI not just to replace the kind of mundane, boring human tasks that maybe humans were doing in the past, but using AI to make sure that humans are more productive on the back end. So we had a tool called Agent Assist. Initially, Agent Assist was really focused on real-time suggestions, whether the agent's on a kind of messaging channel or a voice channel, using AI to make smart suggestions on how the agent should respond, tapping into kind of knowledge bases, best practices, procedural type of information. That has since evolved over the years, so we now do real-time transcription, translation, and summarization through that tool as well. And then to kind of round everything out, we have a solution called Contact Center Insights. Insights was originally about really helping you build bots, so ingesting your call recordings, your chat transcripts, kind of mapping intents, understanding why customers are contacting your organization, and then being able to feed that back into your bot building experience or into your agent assist experience, so you're delivering the most high quality experiences you can provide. And then most recently, we've kind of elaborated on insights again, so we're actually doing real-time scoring of both virtual agents and humans relative to scorecards entirely based on Google language models in the back end. So not just about bots anymore. I think a lot of people start with bots. I think one of the things I'd like you all to take home today is like bots is a great use case for AI, and particularly genai is moving a lot more easily to consume and rapidly deploy large kind of virtual agents, whether that's voice or chat. But there's a lot of great GenAI tools at your fingertips that can show you much faster time to value. So whether that's reporting and analytics with a tool like Insights, or whether that's leveraging summarization so agents don't need to take call notes. Think about the easier to digest use cases rather than large complex bot builds.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. Ishan, I think I'll ask the next question to you around, given the fact that you've been leader in this space for a while and also using the Google CCI technology very extensively for multiple customers, one question that comes up a lot, especially lately with so many implementations that are going around in the space, is how are we measuring success, right? And what are the different KPIs that we are using to define, are we moving in the right direction around our customer experience strategy? So if you can share some learnings from working with all the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we heard from Kim and David, both leaders in their respective industries, and from Matt's perspective as well, like from a technology standpoint, right? But like being like you said, experts, right? So if I just zoom out and just sort of paint the broad strokes, right? Some of the things that organizations are looking for, like from outcomes perspective, is customer satisfaction, agent involvement, and reducing costs or like improving top lines. In broad strokes, these are some of the key themes that we see, and the manifestations of these outcomes sort of differ from industry to industry. But that's predominantly the outcomes that you're looking for. Now, in terms of measuring success, all of it boils down to tracking KPIs and KPIs that can be actually measured across these three pillars, right? So, for example, when you're talking about customer satisfaction, some of the metrics that we see organizations measure is first call resolution rates or containment rates, right? Like how many times are your customers reaching out to you and they're getting their queries resolved in the first call itself, right? What is the amount of touch points the customer has to do, right? And how are they engaging with your technology? Right? We all interface with IVRs and I know it frustrates us. God forbid the thing that you're looking for is 27 in the IVR, right? Like right now technology sort of helps you in a way by using conversational IVRs to just sort of not go through the entire archaic way of doing it, but again engaging with it in a conversational way. So that's something on the customer experience side. On the agent empowerment side, right? How are you making lives easier for agents? So you can track what is the response time agents are taking in answering customer calls, right? What is the dead air in a call, right? Typically, when there is a silence on the call, the agent is more often than not looking to how to answer that question and sifting through like maybe 3 or 4 different applications to sort of solve the customer's query, right? So you can measure some of those things, and then again, cost, right? Like I said, containment rate. That is essentially a very big determining factor as to how many calls and how many chats is your technology able to contain within the technology side of it, and not having to involve a human agent in it. Because eventually, when you look at it, a contact center, the number of people and the number of agents that you have to service your call only, that is one of the biggest factors that leads to conflict. So these are some of the things that we see. That's something that we see a lot, and again, these KPIs are something that should be measured. Right? Like when you're defining success, one thing is to see how you measure success. The other thing is also are you able to measure these KPIs. So that's also a very important aspect people should look at before they say, wait, this is how I can define success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, in a very organized fashion around how and what those KPIs should be. Speaking of KPIs, and also we're in a conference where we're talking about revolutionization of contact centers and transformation, we have to talk about generative AI as well, right? So would love to understand, when it comes to KPIs, it was more measurable when we were talking about like the traditional AI ways of how we were doing things, but now with generative AI coming in, things have changed quite a bit. And what I'd like to understand is, how are we seeing organizations adapt generative AI and also pushing towards, production, some of those POCs, etc. that we've been doing, and the fact that, Kimberly, David, you guys have already implemented some of those and are, the pioneers of that in the space. Would love to hear from you on how are we making, what are the steps that we've taken, and how are we making those decisions to move to production also with some of the generative AI use cases.
Yeah, I think that's a very critical question. And part of my language, but this is where I really get to engineer out. Because we have moved into a period of orchestration, not just inference. When you look at the technologies, you talk about how you ask about how LLMs are being implemented and changing. The novel capabilities that are being delivered on a daily basis with LLM and other generative AI technologies are incredible. But they've been very compartmentalized until the last year or so with the implementation or launch of managed AI platforms and things such as Google Vertex AI. Being able to build API-driven systems that can then go in and be orchestrated in a way to leverage the most appropriate model and then refine based on our own patient data provides very precision and personalized response to patients. Without the foundational technologies, while there's been an explosion of LLMs, I don't think implementation and access and the ability to leverage those technologies would exist without the foundational technology of Vertex AI platform or Amazon Bedrock or other foundational platforms that can leverage all of the models. For us, an electronic caregiver, as we've begun to move down that path and look at how we want to leverage a variety of LLMs, we are really looking at a sample of 30,000 very differently chronically ill patients. Some have cardiovascular disease, some have respiratory disease, some have endocrinology diseases, some have a combination of those diseases. And being able to train and tune individual models that can be orchestrated to deliver what the patient needs, I think is where LLM technologies are really being shown to be powerful and leverageable by the general consumer.
Yeah, well, that's great. We were talking about it this morning at breakfast around how the way we've been doing things with like conversational layers is more intent based, and now LLMs are accelerating. And how's that journey looking like for KeyBank?
Yeah, so can you hear me? Okay. So I talked a little bit about our agent assist solution where we're going to use generative AI to kind of summarize the procedures to make it easier for you to find the answer. I do want to talk a little bit about how we're going to be using it in our data strategy within the contact center. And so 3 years ago, when I stepped into this position, contact center data was really used to measure core KPIs: how long people on the phone for, how often they're calling, what are they calling about, that kind of thing. And so once I kind of got in the seat, we started looking at the data, we realized that the ecosystem of the contact center and the applications of the contact center actually start to provide this rich source of data to really understand who our clients are, not just during their contact center interactions, but also before and after. And so we, with Quantify's help and Google, over the last year developed a cloud-based data lake to pump all of that data into. So now we're able to see what are our digital interactions with clients who have done something digitally before they chatted with us. What are our conversations? Every single transcript, whether it be voice or chat, is pumped into there. What are they doing with the applications in our servicing arena after we help the client? What type of action are we taking on their behalf? And so by starting to consolidate all that data, I kind of think of it as farming. Before, my team had to know which field to go to find the thing that they wanted to look at. Now we have it all in one nice little bucket, if you will, and it's in an application, it's automated, we've got governance around it. It's a great source of data. We use that data to help drive our product roadmaps. When we built MyKey, we used that data to understand what clients were doing digitally before they called us, and then to prioritize what those top intents were that were ready to go into MyKey. We've used that data to help with our transformation to UJET, which is our new contact center kind of core application, to understand unique transfer routing, where can we start to bundle agents together because they have similar call types, and then they transfer elsewhere after the fact, so we can start to create a universal agent. And we use that all over for technology, product, etc. We use that for our core operations team so that they understand how can they better train people, how can they help assist their agents, how can they lean in where they need to. And then we've also really understood that that data is so important because people are not calling the contact center because they have a problem with me or someone else, an agent, technology. They're calling because they have a problem somewhere else in the organization. And so the democratization of that data is probably the most critical data at the bank, and I would assume at many of your contact centers. And so today, my team, while we have really simplified the experience of figuring out where to go to get the data, we spend a lot of time understanding that data and a lot of time creating unique code from topic modeling to get to the real source and the need of that data. And so what I look at for the future with generative AI and LLMs is a way for us to really speed to market our insights to the broader organization. So how can we use that to summarize, categorize, and create themes around everything that's going on? Whether you sit at a bank and you have partners in the consumer bank, the investment bank, the commercial bank, everyone wants to know their data, but they want to know a slightly different layer. And so today my team could take up to a month plus to really get to the insights that our digital partners are asking for or commercial banking partners are asking for. What we're hoping to do over the next year with Quantify and Google again is we want to build an insight generation layer on top of our data lake where we can really quickly prompt to the deepest insights to give us not just simple call drivers, but like what is below the level of those call drivers, and start to really understand who our clients are better, and really get those out, speed to market to the broader organization to help influence product roadmaps, you know, sales strategies, all sorts of different things.
Got it. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm again going to ask you to, about, given that you've gone through this journey, what are the top things to consider as a business leader when you're talking about the contact center transformation journey?
I think, if you turned it off, I apologize. I think the biggest thing to think about is your data. And I'm not just doing that because I care all day about data. But I think every time I talk to peers, I talk to colleagues, and we're talking about AI, everyone's almost looking at it as this like really quick fix to the problem they have at hand, and it's just going to tell us all the answers. And I go back to the fact that if you don't have quality data, and that can be structured data, that can be unstructured data, whatever goes into it is going to be what comes out of it. And so we've spent a lot of time really respecting our data, getting a solid governance around it, strategy around it, unification around it, et cetera, so that when we do what I was just speaking about for client insights and help to drive the business, we have a very high level of confidence that the information that we are being told is in fact correct, right? And what we are telling the organization is going to be information that is valuable for them to make decisions and do, drive their business better. I think that also applies when you think about the use case that I talked about, when we think about helping our agents or our teammates synthesize a lot of procedures and manuals, right? Again, if you're using something that has the ability to be edited by hundreds of different people, you're going to get a very weird kind of answer. And you're going to get something that maybe your risk partners or legal or whoever is really in charge of, making sure that we're doing the right thing to our clients every single time. You want to make sure that that data is correct as well. So I always think going back, understanding where's your data coming from, how much do you trust your data, where it's coming from, right? Everybody can get an Excel spreadsheet. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is a validated source of data. That could have been changed 100 different ways. So really understanding the source of your data, creating some type of governance structure around your data, and then holding people who own that data accountable to ensure that there is validity in it, and that when you do start to put these tools from an optimization perspective on top of it, you're getting quality out of it.
Got it, yeah. David, there is this fear that most organizations, especially the contact center space, have, given that it's so human intensive, that it's going to displace jobs, right? So how do we tackle that, where we continue to transform, leverage the technology, but also secure and boost the productivity of our workers on a day-to-day basis? So how are we doing that at Electronic Caregiver, just by our experience?
Yeah, I think that is a critical question in today's world, and it does take serious consideration for your existing employee base.
Yeah.
I think, first off, I don't want to just overlook what Kim was talking about. Electronic Caregiver, as we began to implement our AI Everywhere strategy, also led to a data modernization. So having a modern data infrastructure, automated pipelines, the technologies that are available are critical, because your models will only output the level of quality that is input in the data. There is no question about that. But I think for us, as we begin to look at our journey and collaboration we've had with Quantify, we really focused on three pieces. And I want to take a second to really talk about these three pieces, because I've said in many of these panel sessions where people have used jargon and talked about their experiences, and it has been 100% positive. Your generative AI journey will not be 100% positive, and it will be positive. There is no doubt about that. But as we looked at our three pathways that we really needed to focus on, there's two that I want to be very clear on. The employees. We have spent a lot of time and considerable resources in letting our employee base know generative AI and the intelligence, machine intelligence we're deploying is not intended to replace them. It's intended to take away the 80% of the mundane that they do, allowing them to practice at the absolute top of their license or skill set. And one of the KPIs that we look at is the amount of time spent by employee across different internal skill distributions during their work time. And we have seen a distinct increase in higher level skill time spent as we've deployed generative AI. That, coupled with the fact that we have not laid off a quality assurance agent, even though we have automated our call quality assurance, is very reinforcing because we've expanded them into other non-previously utilized quality assurance areas, providing significant insight to the company, significant insight to our patients, significant insight to our customers.
Yeah.
So I think, one, having that is really, really important. The other piece that I think is important for employees to understand is related to cost reduction, because everybody sees themselves as disposable compared to cost. And that's not the case with a real generative AI journey. I'm here to tell you the first AI model, the first true AI model that you put into production will be more expensive than you believe it will be. There's no question about that. And that's not a problem. We experienced a 5% increase in our cost to deliver a 10x return on our call QA. But we have 4 distinct verticals that the foundational work we've done with Quantify are going to be distributed across. Not just call quality assurance, but care call delivery automation, contact center AI, clinic scoring based on overall sentiment of patients. Those data come from the original foundational AI work we've done on QA automation. So we're going to, over the next year, distribute those costs across 2 AI channels, and then across 4 AI channels, and in about a 3-year period, we're going to go from a 5% increase in our cost to QA all of our calls to about a 65 to 70% decrease as we distribute those remaining costs across all of our other initiatives. So I think as you begin to look at this and you look at your journey, don't be afraid of your journey when you're going through this. It's not going to be perfect. It's not perfect for anybody, and it hasn't been perfect. Looking at it strategically, long term, and being able to break those costs and those skills down, or how you retain your workforce, you reallocate your workforce effectively, and you build models that distribute the cost across a variety of applications, not just one. And that is how we've taken our journey. And the one thing I will say, and this is absolutely accurate, one of the reasons we chose Quantify as our partner and Google as our partner in this first journey is because they were willing to listen to what we were wanting and what our goals and objectives were. They did not try to force us into a single vertical or channel, and they have been with us throughout this entire journey, and it has really allowed us to streamline. Our first model was longer than expected, the time to market. We've already completed the discovery period of our second model with the same team, minus the Quantify team, by 80%, just in the second iteration of the process. And we are going to accelerate that flywheel, discovery, iteration, and delivery. So remember that as you're walking down your AI journey across the contact center.
Yeah, so let's burn out more productivity, more cost savings, and low attrition also. That's great. Matthew, there is a lot that's happening in this space, and the technology is evolving on a daily basis, right? Every new research paper comes out every other day, and so much is going on. So how is Google ensuring that these AI solutions are scalable and adaptable also at the same time?
Yeah, great question. I think we have the luxury of being able to really look at things from a macro level. So AI for us is enterprise and it's consumer and it touches almost everything we do as a company if you've been following. So one of the benefits of that to the organization we serve, of course, is that our Vertex AI platform is at the core of all of the innovation we're doing in the enterprise space, specifically in the context of our customer experience space. So whether that's you're deploying voice bots, or we see a lot of customers these days building internal info bots. So like simple Q&A bot, we do this internally ourselves. So we have like an RFP response Q&A bot where, all right, sales team, don't ask product management, just go search in the bot and we'll get a good response. So like tools like this are super helpful, and I think to the point that both Kim and Dave were driving home is like leveraging AI for human assistance, for human productivity, and not just for human replacements is really super critical. I think another thing that we do that's a little unique is we recognize that fundamentally there's certain flows within a contact center kind of self-service experience that should probably stay deterministic while genai matures and figures itself out. So, and again, coming from kind of where we've come from in our history and legacy, having the deterministic kind of intent-based routing where you're still using AI, but it's very prescriptive responses, and you're really dramatically reducing the risk of Gen AI running amok and hallucinating and potentially providing wrong answers. Knowing when to mix deterministic and generative flows within an organization is something that, again, strongly recommend everybody think about going forward. And then lastly, I think we're in a unique position where we give customers a lot of choice for how they want to consume AI. So whether that's build it yourself from the ground up, complete DIY with APIs, or whether you want turnkey applications out of the box, we integrate with almost every CCaaS vendor you'll see on the floor this week. And then of course we have our own complete end-to-end contact center as a service kind of transformation platform as well for customers that want an all-in-one kind of out-of-the-box turnkey solution. So I think as you're thinking about your own personal journeys, again, like, know that it comes in a variety of shapes and sizes. It's not one size fits all. Contact centers are historically complex and custom, as you all know. We all live this reality in our day-to-day lives. And so having that flexibility between, an out-of-the-box solution, something a little more refinable, a little more custom, a little more DIY is super important.
That's great. Thank you so much. Well, those were all the questions that I had today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Hearing from you guys from your first-hand experience is amazing. Well, that was very insightful for me. I'd like to see if we have like one or two questions from the audience, and then we can move on to the next part of our session. Oh yeah, absolutely, yes.
So yeah, from a like a implementation, sort of like an expert in this domain, right? Like what we sort of see in terms of scalability and adaptability, and I would really like to sort of agree with what David said there, right? 10 out of 10 times, your first attempt is probably going to not give you the results that you expected, right? So we as an organization, we really focus on continuous improvements. That's how we do delivery, and that's how we build our teams to sort of also condition our customers to sort of not just focus on the short-term goals, but also think about how are you going to run with this solution for the next 2 to 3 years, because that's where you will see value. Second, while genai has become like a common household name in the last 1.5 years, right? And what I have seen with every new technology, like people expect it to do everything, right? From solving your business needs to serving breakfast in bed in the morning, right? So we spend a lot of time educating our customers, sort of filtering out the noise from what is reality, and really setting some real expectations, and sort of not sort of having far-fetched expectations from the technology. Right? So we sort of laid a lot of groundwork around that aspect. Thirdly, Quantify has been like involved with genai when it was probably more commonly as deep learning, and so we've sort of really been at before it became a household name, right? So we've been investing in a lot of R&D, and we've created accelerators that sort of again help customers through that journey, right? Like once you've gone ahead with the first production release or whatever, right? Like how do you carry with it, right? So a lot of those accelerators help in that journey. And finally, like from a more commercial innovation perspective, right? Quantify has come up with some innovative commercial models where you as an organization, you don't pay for professional services, but you only pay when you realize costs. So if you put it out in a contact center perspective, only when a call is contained, right, you only pay like a subscription fee for that call, because that's where you're realizing cost savings. But for any other call that goes to an agent, or a call that goes to an agent but is investments, which typically are the reasons why they don't sort of get off the ground. So we removed the whole requirement and made it more like an OpEx or subscription model. And so sort of it sort of scales with the way your organization is.
Thanks for jumping in, Sean. That was very helpful. So, any questions? We will now open it up to the audience. One or two questions that we can take up before we move on to the next segment. Yes. Jim.
I know you mentioned chat volume and for as compared to phone and the decrease in your phone volume. Did not have that experience. My phone volume did not change, but chat continued to increase. I'm in healthcare, so it's a little different animal. But I'm curious, when you talk about chat, is it in reference to usage of bots? Is it live chat? Combination of both?
That's a really good question. So we look at our individual MyPay chats, which we have about 80,000 a month. And then we look at our live agent chats, which we have about 40,000 a month. And then we have about 500,000 calls per month, and I think 2.1 million contained in the IVR. So, big channel mix. We have an intent within our chatbot to transfer to live agent. And so when that transfer happens, all of your information from that chat goes there. One thing that we did, and this goes back to our data strategy around how we kind of thought through the intents that we were going to introduce, was we really took that holistic client journey data to understand what our clients were doing, what they were calling us about, and then what we were doing on their behalf. And so we used a lot of user experience data from our digital properties to see what were they searching for. So we have an intelligent search bar. We were going in and saying, okay, what were the top searches that they were doing? Then we were looking and saying, in our digital properties, what are the big actions that they're taking action on? So you searched for something popped up, did you actually then do anything with it, right? And then we took that and we said, okay, now what are people actually calling us about? And so as we were doing that kind of analysis, certain themes started to bubble to the top, right? So Zelle was a perfect example. Zelle is in our top 5 searches. It was, I think, in the bottom 5% of actual quick actions, and it was in the top 5% of people calling in and asking, how do I set up Zelle? How do I send money with Zelle? So from that data, our product team very quickly went out and said, okay, we need to have an intent around Zelle. How to send money, how to set it up, how to do all these things around Zelle. Another thing that we were doing, because we do this data all the time, is we started to see seasonality. And so as we started getting to tax season, all of our searches bubbling to the top were, how do I find my 1099s? How do I find my tax forms? And so while we weren't live with our chatbot at the time, we were really looking through, helping to build the product roadmap for our product teams. We said, hey guys, like if you don't figure out intents around tax season, when we go live in the fall, come April next year, our whole use case goes out the window. So we took a really, really focused, data-driven model to understanding who our clients are, to then determine what our chatbot should be doing. You know, I think a lot of people look at it and say, legacy knowledge of the floor, right? I've had so many calls today about this one topic. That's great, but sometimes the loudest voices in the room really are not what's actually going on, and data doesn't lie. So going back to that foundational data model, I think is super important. Yeah.
Any other questions that we can take on? Thank you for asking that one. Thanks, Sean. Yes.
As we're getting the mic in hand, can a quick show of hands, how many people have deployed AI in their contact center? Wow, that number's a lot smaller than I thought. Oh,
Yeah.
some more hands coming in. Awesome. How many people are thinking of deploying AI in the contact center? That's what I expected. Awesome, thanks.
So I'm just curious, the industry that we're in is in financial technology, we serve healthcare, and we have a lot of customers who are really worried about regulation, really worried about data privacy. Could you talk a little bit about how you discuss those with your customers and how you get over some of those hurdles, whether they're internal or external?
So yeah, I'm actually going to pass the mic to you. For us in healthcare, we speak openly and transparently communication has a tendency to break down is companies like Electronic Caregiver trying to internalize the knowledge of an entire team that has built the Google Vertex AI platform, or the Quantify connection to call transcription. And so what we've done is we've taken the approach to be very open and transparent, but willing to call in our much more knowledgeable, well-known, and powerful partners who have been very willing to come into those conversations with us, and they speak and have spoken about their knowledge, what they're doing, how their tools are secure, and one is name recognition. There's no question about that. The name Google or Amazon carries more weight than the name Electronic Caregiver, no question. If you look at the second piece of that, being able to speak in a very expert and direct fashion is a big confidence builder, and allowing them to speak to their knowledge does nothing but exponentially increase that confidence in the customer. So I would encourage you, if you're leveraging cloud partners or other partners that are more name brand, so to speak, in the AI front, leverage them, because in my experiences, they want to help, they want to be involved, they want to expand the technologies, because that's why they're in this industry. So that's one of the ways, and then I would pass it over to the Google team to expand.
I'm going to flip it on its head. So I actually find a lot of our customers don't want to hear from us at some point in time, and they want to hear from customers like them who have a center of excellence that their AI machine learning groups and have figured this out internally, because so much of compliance is actually not necessarily about tech, it's about process and the people and all the checks and balances. So, well, yes, we do have kind of tighter teams of security and compliance folks who will, come and do deep dives and help people understand how we have the technology layer can help. You do a ton of customer-to-customer consulting calls. If it's a competitive customer, we'll find somebody on the other side of the planet kind of thing. And I think that's where you really get the value of hearing somebody like you who's actually doing it firsthand.
So working in a bank, our data is very secure, and we've got lots of rules and regulations around it. I think something that my team has really thought pretty, creatively around is understanding and pairing transactional data plus experience data to really understand what's going on. And so that doesn't necessarily have to be a client. That could also be for an employee. And I like to say for every client interaction, there's an employee reaction. And so a lot of data is in a lot of resource systems today. It's probably just not stitched together in a way that is most valuable to you. In our data lake though, we obviously have to follow all of our InfoSec rules. We have, different amounts of time we can hold transcripts for, et cetera. So we've automated that governance so that we don't have to worry about having something that we shouldn't have for too long, et cetera. But I really think going and looking at your source systems where transactions happen, and looking at your source systems that capture experiences, whether that be the surveys that you present to your clients, that they know that they're giving that information to you, pairing those together give you a really interesting understanding of what the client thought happened, what actually happened, and then transcripts within the contact center is then the context around what was going on. And I think we all interact with companies today that those types of data are being collected, and I think just being smart about how you use it, and making sure that personal information isn't stored in the cloud, and making sure that it's not Jack on 127 Pine Street. Instead, it's Jack fits into a broader population of people who act a certain way. What is that data telling us that we can use to do better things for our clients and our employees and our experiences? Yeah.
And to add one thing to what you said, this is a cloud predominantly driven business. And one of the things that I think companies struggle with is understanding that there is a shared security responsibility, a shared regulation adherence responsibility, and it comes across all three layers. Being in healthcare, having a small, lean team, we leverage our cloud partners. But we're very direct and upfront, and I should have included this in the first part of my response. And we require a shared security and a shared regulation adherence model. And we talk with our customers and our partners about how they can do that. We provide technical account management to support them and help explain how they can do their part. That is not to pawn off on everything. For everything we ask them to do, we present how we're going to do 10 times that much on our part of the shared responsibility. But understanding it's an entire community, an entire end-to-end process, and being transparent about that up front, I think while it doesn't necessarily change the outcomes or concerns, it is very critical because it is a shared responsibility, and that actually empowers a lot of our customers to think about what they want in security, think about how they need security, and it actually shows how we meet what they're wanting, what they're needing, and it absolves or reduces some of those concerns.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and David, for sharing your insights, experience, and also just seeing how passionate you all are about what you all are doing is amazing. I guess that's a wrap for our panel discussion. I will let you join the audience if you'd like. And now we move on to the next segment, which is